Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup and the San Francisco Content Strategy and Content Marketing Pros. Today, we're talking SEO with Dale Bertrand. Dale is a 20-year search marketing veteran. And what Dale's going to do is unveil a framework for developing SEO content with conversion in mind every step of the way, from keyword strategy to content development and publication. Dale is a multi-time presenter throughout the industry, but also multi-time at this meetup. So Dale, thanks for joining us and take it away.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to be talking about SEO, as you alluded to, and there's definitely some changes coming in the world of SEO. But I'm also going to talk about converting organic traffic, and I'm going to throw in some AI tools that I'm using to make sure that my organic traffic converts. So I know you guys have probably been hearing a lot about AI tools because everybody's been hearing a lot about AI tools. So I won't dwell too much on that, but I will show you some of what I'm doing. Now, hi, I'm Dale. Nice to meet you. So when it comes to SEO, like we're all want to know like what details matter. At my agency, we do what I call evidence-based SEO. So what that means is we're looking at what tactics have worked in the last 6 months and constantly like updating that based on the client work that we're doing. So the slide I have there, this is a screenshot of a whiteboard. So this is one of the times we did the exercise where I was trying to map out what's working. And what this rolls up into is the 2024 strategy. So we put this together in January of this year. And you guys will get the slides because I'm not going to go into this in super detail because I have a lot here to cover. But what's in this mind map here is what tactics have worked for us in the last 6 months on client projects. And we identify the actual client in with the abbreviations underneath. But really quickly looking at this, there are a number of tactics that have been working related to authority building. And there are a number of tactics related to on-site optimization. And then when we say high intent, that's all what I'm about to talk about, which is targeting the right intents so that you're targeting the right customers when they are making their purchase decision. So that you have a higher chance of conversion, and then also a number of strategies and tactics that are working for us that are related to conversion. So we call this evidence-based SEO, where we update this every 6 months based on the tactics that have worked for us. And we all know that SEO has been changing. So I'm going to give you guys just the lowdown on what we're doing today based on the last evidence-based SEO survey that we did. Now, one thing that's important is that typical, traditional, old school, obsoleted SEO is what I call SEO for rankings. And what that's all about is we're optimizing for traffic. Did we have a question? I'm happy to take questions in the middle. What that's about is optimizing for traffic and rankings, as opposed to what we really care about, which should be customer acquisition. So I call the flavor of SEO where you're focused on customer acquisition, SEO for revenue, because what you care about is acquiring new customers, which is traffic that's going to convert. The metrics that you're looking at are sales and conversions, not just rankings and traffic. The research you're doing up front is not about which keywords have the highest volume. It's really focused on your customers and their needs. What questions do they ask when they're making a purchase decision, so that you could provide those answers and get found when they're making the purchase decision. And then targeting, it's not just high value keywords, it's actually these high intent customers. One example I like to give is if you sell ski boots online, you could be writing content about how to clean your ski boots, or you could be writing content about how to size your ski boots. And if you think about it, cleaning is something people are looking for that information after they've already bought ski boots. They're not online looking to buy. But if they're looking for information about how to choose the right size, they're in market for ski boots and they're asking a purchase intent question, a high intent question, and that makes them a high intent customer that we should be going after. And then really the kicker for SEO for revenue is that you can invest selectively in SEO. So basically going after specific search intents rather than this endless investment or engaging with an SEO agency on a high-priced, never-ending retainer. So this is what we're going to talk about. Very quickly here, my background. My background is in technology and marketing. I studied AI in grad school. I have a technical background. I was a software guy for a while, but I switched over to marketing in 2008. I've been working in digital marketing strategy for 15 years, and I run Fire&Spark. Fire&Spark is my agency. We only do SEO strategy. We don't do paid search or anything else. We don't pretend to be world-class at anything other than SEO. And we've worked with a bunch of clients, some of which you may have heard of. So I'm going to talk about targeting the right intent, and I'm going to start with a story here. These are some really cute dolls. These are dolls that my daughter loves. She's in the next room. She found out about American Girl dolls watching these videos. They're cute videos where they teach each other life lessons about friendship and other things. Now, yes, it's creepy, but during the pandemic, which was in 2020, my daughter's birthday is in May, and she wanted to go to the American Girl doll store in Boston, but it was closed. So I had to see if there was any other store that was open, and turned out that her friend told her about a used American Girl doll store we could go to. Then we found out that the New York store was open, so I was looking for that. And last thing here I'll say about that is I found that you can get your daughter's hairstyled at the New York American Girl doll store. You can get the doll's hairstyled and the daughter's hairstyled right next to each other, and it costs a lot of money. So just bring your wallet if you decide to take that trip down to New York. Now, my daughter and I decided to take a road trip from Boston down to New York, and that's where we did it. Now, what you guys are asking me is, what in the heck does this have to do with SEO? And when it comes to SEO, throughout this entire saga, to get my daughter her American Girl doll and to get the doll's hair styled in the salon in New York, I was using Google and I was typing in American Girl. I typed in American Girl many times. The first time I was looking to find the Boston store. Then I was looking to find the used doll store in Boston. Then I was looking to find the store in New York. Then I was looking to make a reservation for the salon in New York. Then I was looking for directions to the American Girl doll store. But each time I was typing in American Girl, but I had different intents in terms of what I was searching for. And the reason why that's important is a lot of times when we're doing SEO, we think about our targeting in terms of what keywords are we going to target. And if you were here in person and you told me that, I would wring your neck, because what I want you to target is the search intent. That is what is going to convert at the end of the day. We want to make sure that we're targeting people who have the intent to buy, and they're asking a buying question because they're trying to make a purchase decision around a product or a service that we sell. Now, let me give you some examples on how this can go wrong. We had a client that came to us. They sell machines, 3D printers, a 3D printer that could go on your desk and print prototypes or action figures, whatever you want. They wanted us to help them rank for the keyword 3D printing, but it turned out 3D printing was the wrong keyword, because when you type in 3D printing, you're actually looking for a 3D printing service that will do the printing for you and send you the prototype or the action figure in the mail. Now, instead, when you type in 3D printer, that's actually the right intent, because the intent behind the keyword 3D printer is to buy a machine, the type of machine that you would put on your desk and do the printing yourself. Very similar keywords, very different intents, and that's super important. So in this case, when the client came to us and said they wanted to rank for the keyword 3D printing, I told them, yeah, I get it, but we need to start with the intent so that we can find the right keywords, the keywords that you should actually be optimizing for. Now, the best way to figure out the intent behind a keyword is to type that keyword into Google, because Google knows. And Google knows what people actually click on when they type in these keywords. This example here is medical weight loss, because we have a couple of clients that do medical weight loss. They wanted to rank for the keyword medical weight loss, but when you type it into Google, you see a map, which what that means is the intent behind this keyword is actually to find a local clinic with a physical doctor that you can visit, not a medical weight loss drug like my client was selling. So it's the wrong keyword, even though that's what they wanted to rank for. There's a tool out there called wordcrafter.ai that I like, that speeds up this process of finding the intent. It looks at the search results page for you. So you might want to check out wordcrafter.ai to do this sort of work. I actually don't type the keyword into Google anymore to read the results and figure out what the intent is. I actually use an AI tool, wordcrafter.ai, to do that for me. So you guys might want to try that. So when we're planning for conversion, What this is like with the SEO for revenue framework, we don't just want to generate traffic. Like I had a client that did team building events for corporations and at conferences. And they had one that was something about write a country song like Taylor Swift. Now they were getting a ton of organic traffic to that page, but the traffic was actually people who were looking for her tour schedule and her music. They were not looking for a corporate team building event that was themed around Taylor Swift. So it's an example of just like getting the wrong traffic to your site because you were targeting traffic, not actual like traffic that might convert. So really what it comes down to is knowing your audience. So the more you know about the customers that you're targeting, like what search intents you want to go after, what information they need to make that purchase decision, the questions that they ask, the better, because that'll allow you to define that search intent that you're going after and align that search intent with the calls to action on your content to actually convert them. Now, this is important because old school SEO, what some of you guys might be familiar with, because I've been doing SEO for a long time. So what I used to do was I would do keyword research up front and I would do a technical audit up front. Wrong way to do SEO now. And I'm going to show you on the next slide how I do it. So this is a client that came to us. And they were a financial institution. They had a donor advised fund that they were trying to get people to sign up for. What that is it's an account where if I have a lot of money, I can put my money in this account and I get the tax break today on my taxes. That's the primary benefit of this account. But I don't have to give the money to a charity in this tax year. I could give it away many years later to the charity. So a lot of people love these donor advised funds so that they can put money in it and get a tax break on that money as if they had given it to a charity. So this financial institution wanted us to target the keyword donor advised fund. The problem with that is that when people, because we're reading the results to figure out what people are actually looking for, most of the people who are looking or typing in donor advised fund, they already have one and they're looking for an accountant or they're trying to figure out how to file their taxes to get the tax break, something like that. So that's actually the wrong keyword to go after. What we do now is instead of starting with keywords, we start with search intent. So we're not doing keyword research up front. We're actually doing our customer research and competitor research and talking to our clients to understand what those search intents are. So in this case, what we would do is we come up with a 5 or 10 search intents, but the one for that I'm illustrating here is the intent to open an account with a financial institution. Actually, the intent to open a donor advised fund with a financial institution. Now, the trick to writing these search intents is they should be, to get them to target search intents that will convert, is you want search intents that begin with a verb. I want to buy something or sign up for something or submit a mortgage application or something like that, because that'll lead you down the direction of defining search intents that will actually convert. So what we do up front, not keyword research, we identify the search intents up front. Now, second thing is we also do not do an SEO audit up front. What we do is we define the conversion points related to the search intents. And the reason why this is important is because you want to figure out how you're going to convert somebody who visits your website with that intent before you do your keyword strategy, before you write content, before you figure out what type of content you're going to create, because the whole purpose of your content strategy and the content you create for SEO is going to be to bring people from the intents that you've identified up front to the conversion points that you've identified up front. That's why we're identifying those two things up front. So what that means is you have the intents, you have the conversion points, you're using the intents to filter the keywords and the conversion points. Like, is this the right keyword for this intent? Are these the right, is this the right conversion point for this intent? Is this the right type of content for this intent? Because it's usually not blog articles when we go down this path. Now, does this make sense? Because this is really the foundational piece for what I'm about to talk about. Awesome. So then where you end up with old school SEO for rankings, you're optimizing your site, you're creating some content, you're building some authority, maybe with link building. And then once you get some traffic, you're thinking about CRO. The problem is you've already lost, because most likely you are generating the wrong traffic. So with new school SEO for revenue, you're thinking about conversion up front. You're thinking about those search intents you're going to target up front. Then you're thinking about how am I going to build authority, and that's around a number of things. We can talk about it at a different time, but all of the things that you can do to build authority with Google and other search engines, and now we're thinking about LLMs that I'll talk about at the end. Then from there, we're thinking about what type of content are we going to create, usually not blog articles. I'll talk about that. And then the cherry on the top is the on-page optimizations that we do for SEO. So strategy questions. Now, if you're doing old school SEO for rankings, the type of questions you're asking are what keywords have the highest volume? What's our page load speed? Because you're doing technical audit up front. How are we going to track our rankings? But with the new school SEO for revenue, where you're focused on conversion, you're looking at what are the highest intent searches, not the highest volume. And what information do our customers need to make their buying decision? And how are we going to track our sales and our conversions, not just our rankings and our organic traffic? Now, this is where I typically dive into ChatGPT. I'm not going to get too, I'm going to skip some of these slides. I'm sure you guys are, there's a few of you that I can see. You guys are already pros with ChatGPT for SEO or not? Somewhat. I'll go through it quickly. This is the question I always love to ask, because I love to ask you guys. Reason why I ask this is because it's an IQ test. I want to know what I'm dealing with, like in terms of intellectual horsepower of the people on this webinar today. So 1 + 1 equals, feel free to hold up a hand or mouth it or unmute yourself, but I need an answer from somebody. I see nobody. You guys know the answer?
We got a 3 and a 2 in the chat.
Well, whoever said 3 should be smacked, but we're not in person, so you're in luck. We have a 2, and I saw Dennis, I saw you mouthing 2. The question I'm going to ask you, Dennis, is what did you do math when you gave me that answer?
Not really. It was just like the natural elementary school response, I think, for me.
Exactly. So you didn't do math. What you did was you were completing a pattern. This is something that you've
Yeah.
known for a long time. When you hear 1 + 1, the answer is 2. And what ChatGPT and other large language models is doing is during their training, they're trained on almost everything that's been written on the web and a number of other corpuses of information. And they're identifying patterns just like this one. And when they generate the text that we use for whatever our purposes are, what they're doing is they're completing patterns, millions of different patterns that they identified during the training. So if you were to give it the sentence, my feet got wet while crossing what they're doing is they're applying probabilities to every word in the English language and figuring out, well, what are the highest probability words that would come next? Is it the word river, street, puddle, swamp? Those are all pretty high probability. And throw in some randomness, and then it chooses the next word. And it turns out that when you're choosing the next word using these millions of patterns that it learned during its training, it can do a lot of things. And when marketers use ChatGPT, especially for SEO for the very first time, they ask it to write a blog article. And that is not the right way to use ChatGPT, people. What large language models are good at is understanding natural language. So use them for tasks that require understanding natural language. In examples of that is when they're reading the web to do their training, when you're prompting them. I'll use them to read websites and tell me, is this a product page? Is this a marketing conference page? Things like that. But those are examples of tasks that require natural language understanding. They can also reason based on pattern recognition, all of the patterns that they've learned. And they can also compose useful outputs, not just English language, but they can write schema code for structured data for your SEO. They can write in multiple languages. They can build a CSV spreadsheet. So there's thousands of different things that they can compose as outputs. So keep that in mind. That is my 60-second dive into how they work and the fact that they're useful for a lot of different things. Now, for conversion, we could use them to craft CTAs. There was a craft beer festival that I did some work for, run by a craft brewery. If you think about it, for a craft brewery, they're going to have a number of online offers when they're trying to bring organic traffic and convert that organic traffic on their website. Now, on the left here is the customer journey. So their customers will discover them while searching for a craft beer online, and they're going after craft beer enthusiasts, which is important. Then they will be shopping on their website. Then they will purchase online. Then they'll enjoy the product. Then they will repurchase. That is their customer journey. Now, the offers that you might come up with would be something like, here's a beer tasting checklist, download a beer tasting checklist, or get 10% off your first offer when they're shopping on the e-commerce website, or they might see a flash sale, or you might invite them to attend a virtual happy hour while they're enjoying the product, or a refer a friend coupon if they're repurchasing. These are just offers that we might offer. Now, what I've been doing is using ChatGPT to generate these offers. And the way that I've been doing it is coming up with some examples. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, you're a marketer and a copywriter for a beer festival, right? 8 calls to action for marketing materials promoting the festival. Here are some examples. Now, the examples are really important. And the role that I gave it when I told it it's a copywriter are really important. Now, I'll start with the role. Now, when I give it a role, like you're a copywriter for a beer festival, what that's doing is activating the patterns that it learned during its training related to copywriting and beer festivals. Super important, because I want it to use those patterns to write the calls to action. Then after I ask it to write the calls to action, I'm giving it examples. These are just 2 examples that I came up with. This is really important because you're going to get much, much better answers if I give it these 2 examples than if I were to just say, write me some calls to action. It's not going to really know what you want it to do. So the way that I use it for calls to action is I'm using it as a thought partner to help me do brainstorming, where I seed it with some ideas and I'll ask it for 8 of its own ideas, and I'll ask it for 8 more. Some of them are usable, a lot of them are garbage, but it's just a brainstorming session using AI as my thought partner. And this is my, oh, if you guys want to, this is my email address and a QR code. I'm Dale@fireandspark.com. I have this slide in when I'm speaking on stage, but if you don't get the slides, just email me, Dale@fireandspark.com to grab the slides. Now, more examples I'm going to quickly go through of using AI as a thought partner for SEO. Doing your customer research, persona development, and doing competitor research. One of the things that I'll do is I don't read a lot of things anymore. I'll have AI summarize it and ask it for the key points. Here's an example where one of the things, what I sell is I sell SEO services for a living. We record our sales calls, and so we have 2 years worth of sales calls recorded. And I asked ChatGPT to take all of those transcripts and extract every question that a client had asked, and then also to categorize them based on the stage of the sales pipeline, because we have a sales pipeline in our sales process, and every transcript I gave it occurred at one stage of the pipeline. So this was really helpful because we're going through a process of updating our sales materials and our website and all that, to have lists of questions that clients typically ask during the different stages of the sales pipeline. Now, also, I love this. So I was writing some SEO content for one of our clients, and our client sells a pet product. And what it was going to be about was static correction. Now, static correction is when you might give a dog collar that might shock them if they get too close to an invisible fence. Now, what I did was I asked ChatGPT, give me 2 well-known experts in dog training. And it gave me 2, and I checked to make sure it wasn't lying to me, because sometimes it lies to you. Then what I did is I said, write an interview between Caesar and Victoria where they're asked about static correction and focus on the areas where they disagree. And what it gave me was a long hypothetical fake interview where it did a really good job bringing up the areas where they disagree. Like one of them said, it's cruel to shock your dog and it's unnecessary. You can use positive feedback. And the other one said, yeah, but dogs are pack animals. They expect one of the dogs to be an alpha dog, and that's you as a human. And static correction is justified and necessary sometimes to keep dogs out of harm's way. And it just went on and on and on about where they disagreed. It was just a wonderful example to help me do some brainstorming before writing this SEO article. Now, some more quick examples around data analysis for CRO and for SEO. We had a client that lost a whole lot of traffic, and they sold wool products, primarily into vans. Like, people will use wool if they live in their van to insulate their van, but then there's also wool insulation for commercial and residential uses. What we did was we gave it a bunch of Search Console data from the month before they lost a bunch of traffic and the month after they lost a bunch of traffic. And we asked ChatGPT to group the keywords that they lost traffic for and describe those groups to us. And then we asked it to group the keywords that they didn't lose traffic for and describe those groups to us. And what it told me was this website lost traffic for keywords related to the van life movement. And they maintained their traffic for keywords related to residential wool insulation. Now, it's huge. That is absolutely huge because it used to be that when I was trying to figure out why a website lost organic traffic, I would get a cup of coffee and spend a couple hours staring at the analytics and trying to put all the pieces together myself. But with the right data set and the right prompt, ChatGPT was able to give me the answer in a few minutes. Absolutely huge. Now, here's another example with Search Console data where I'm doing the same thing. Oh, this is actually Google Ads data for a client that does autism diagnosis for adults. And what we're asking here is analyze the search term and conversion columns because I want to know, I wanted to group the keywords according to, excuse me, which ones were converting and which ones weren't. And then I say cluster the keywords, which is really just grouping them. Cluster the converting keywords in 10 groups and give me a name for each group because I'm trying to get it to figure this out for me. And then describe the search intent and give me some examples for each group. So what it gave me for the converting keywords was some groups. Like the first one was a bunch of keywords related to autism therapy for adults. And then another one was autism evaluation. Another one was autism diagnosis keywords for specific locations. So it's really doing the work for me around figuring out what types of keywords are converting and summarizing that at a high level in a way that I could discuss this with my client and also come up with an SEO strategy related to the keywords that are converting in their Google Ads, their paid account. So does everybody get what I'm doing here? It's the search terms report from Google Ads that I'm having it analyze. Next, doing something similar, but I gave it a bunch of keywords with conversion and I just pasted it in. And I asked ChatGPT to give me some new keywords that are not on the list that it thinks should convert based on the keywords I gave it. So I gave it hundreds of keywords, and some of them had 0 conversions, some of them had non-zero conversions. And it gave me keywords like refinance mortgage rates, home loan interest rates, best mortgage lenders, that were not on the list that it thinks would have high conversion potential. Then I did the same thing. This is Google Analytics data where actually it's not true. This is Search Console data where I was asking it to cluster the non-branded keywords that were converting by search intent and give me descriptions of the top 10 categories. This is very similar. Now, I'm going to quickly talk about some useful AI tools that I use for SEO and conversion. Like a ChatGPT Plus account. We have the Teams account. I think this is a no-brainer, even if your employer won't pay for it, because it's like $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus. It won't train on your data, and you get access to advanced data analytics, like definitely a must-have. I love this Chrome plugin called ChatHub because it allows me to use 6 at the same time. When I'm trying to come up with a prompt or do anything, I can do it with 6 LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Google's Gemini, all at the same time and figure out which of them is the best for the task that I'm trying to do. And it always surprises me which LLM gives me the best answers for each individual task. The GPT store, we won't go deep into that, but there's so many GPTs that are actually useful for a number of things. So when you have your ChatGPT Plus account, definitely explore the GPT store. One that I used recently was one that was trained on SEO, sorry, content strategy for SEO. And I gave it the content strategy that I had written down for my agency, and I asked it to identify some weaknesses or gaps in this strategy, and I loved it. It gave me 10 ideas. 2 of them were great, and I actually added to my strategy. Then there's GPT for Sheets. I feel like Google's going to offer this natively, but what it allows you to do is it gives you a GPT function. And the way that I use it is I'll create these prompting sheets. This one, what it's doing is it's coming up with ideas for SEO content. And I gave it the target audience, the search intent. I gave it search intent that is not the search intent, and I gave it some example keywords. What I'm doing in the sheet is generating some prompts, passing them to the GPT function, and then in the cell, like it's showing down here, it's giving me content ideas. And there's a lot of different types of content in this sheet that it's giving me ideas for. But that's the GPT function that you get at the GPT for Sheets, gptforwork.com, so that you have that GPT function in your Google Sheets, and I use that all the time. So content recipes, I'm going to go through this quickly, but I had mentioned before that when you're doing SEO for revenue, which is for conversion and sales, not for rankings and traffic, you end up not doing a lot of blogging, because we all know that most blog articles don't generate converting traffic because they're going after the wrong intents, the wrong keywords. We do, so you can build AI assisted content where you're using prompts to generate the copy and the visuals, and you're also using it to help you with conversion opportunities, and it's intent targeted. And what that looks like for us is not blog articles, but things like niche buying guides that we can have. It's easier for AI to, like it works better than blog articles because it's better targeted in terms of intent. You also have better CTAs on these pages, and you can use AI to help you generate different sections on these pages when you're generating a lot of them. Then there's Q&A content. One thing that I'll do is we will write an article or find an article that's online. We'll ask an AI tool like ChatGPT, what questions does this content answer? So that's how we get a list of questions. And then we will answer those questions with some assistance from AI. When we're using AI, we're never 100% automating it, even though you can get close with Q&A. We always have a human revise, and we're always making sure that we're starting with our ideas. So after we generate those questions, we'll write some bullet points in terms of here's what I think about the topic, and then have AI write the first version of a 2-paragraph answer, and then we'll do some revision so that we're putting injecting our ideas with the bullet points on the front end, and we're also doing heavy human revision on the back end, so that they're not 100% AI generated. Then also comparison content. Comparison content does well for all the same reasons. It does well from an intent targeting perspective, and it can be AI assisted in terms of its creation. And there's some obvious places you can put calls to action in comparison content. Now, a lot of times when I recommend comparison content, people say, well, wait a minute, what if I'm putting that on my blog? You told me not to blog. I don't care if you put it on your blog. I don't care if it's a SEO landing page. The whole point is that comparison content does well. People also always ask me, well, wait a minute, Dale, who's going to Google and typing in Farmers Insurance versus Foremost Signature Insurance? This doesn't make sense. But what you'll find is that comparison content will rank for a lot of long tail keywords. Things like, is Farmers a scam, or is Farmers pricing competitive, stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons comparison content does well. And then there's niche calculators. We created a niche mortgage calculators for a mortgage company. And what you guys are going to say is, well, wait a minute, there's a million mortgage calculators. The web does not need another mortgage calculator. And that's totally true. But we put them on helpful pages like a second home mortgage calculator page, and a beach house mortgage calculator page, and a vacation house mortgage calculator page, so that we could generate useful content around this one content widget and actually turn it into something that Google would be interested in, because it's not just another mortgage calculator. Then we have generative AI search. Do anybody have a question?
Yeah, there's a question from Crystal in the chat. Do you know if AI generated images have any specific impact on SEO? Do they help or hurt?
We don't really know. What we've found is there are times when you do want to use an expensive Getty stock photo, just like the old way of doing things. But then there are times, and these are typically times when we would not have used an image in the past, where I'm not going to pay for an image, but if I can come, oh, I love it. My dog is barking. But if I can come up with an image that I can get very cheap. Oh my God, can you guys see her? It's really bothering me. If I can come up with an image that I can create really cheaply and easily with an AI tool, then I will throw an image in my email marketing or in some various sections of content that we're creating. So that's really the way that we're thinking about it. And we haven't seen any downside to it. It's more about using the right tool for the task. So getting into generative search, we all know that Google's coming out with SGE, and this has the potential to really change the way our customer search and the way that Google works. Really what I'm focused on here is how does this change the way customers search? And what I've been doing is I forced myself to use perplexity.ai instead of Google. I made it my default my default search engine. And the way that I think about it is like old school Google, when it's giving you a list of links, for a lot of searches, it's giving you a research project because you've got to click into those links and find the answers. With Perplexity or SGE or any of these LLM-based search engines or ChatGPT, it's giving you the answer. And for me, roughly half of the time, it's an accurate answer. Half the time, it's an accurate answer, not a research project. So what I've been doing is forcing myself to use perplexity.ai for all of my searches and pay attention to when it is giving me an accurate answer that satisfies the intent behind my search, and when it gives me a research project, just like Google does. And it's really half and half. It's great when it gives you an accurate answer, but there are times when I'm looking to navigate to a page. So it's a navigational search, or I'm looking to sign up for something, or excuse me, it just doesn't give me an accurate answer or what I'm looking for the other half of the time. But for really obvious, top of funnel informational searches that have been covered over and over and over again with content online, it does a good answer. I mean, sorry, it gives you a good answer. So that's what I'm trying to ingrain in my head as an SEO professional, what the future looks like. So SGE is going to answer questions directly, and Perplexity is already getting that right half of the time. Less organic links, different ranking factors. It's not going to give you the same results that you're going to get from Google. At the end of the day, what it's doing is combining Google's Gemini large language model, which is very similar to ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 and 3.5, with Google's organic results that we're used to, and trying to give you an answer. Top of the funnel traffic is most at risk. Those of us who have been writing blog articles for informational searches, and also it's going to interpret search intent differently. So what this means is we really want to build SEO content that is a destination, not just it has a bunch of answers in it that Google can steal. Now, the SEO content that I just showed you was things like comparison pages or a mortgage widget or a buying guide. These are types of content that are destinations that people would want to navigate to, versus a blog post that answers a bunch of questions that Google can easily steal. Now that gets into generative engine optimization, which is just what people are using to call the idea of like all of the things that we're recommending to do to optimize for LLMs, not just for Google. Now, the exercise that I did that was enlightening for me was I searched for something I knew really well in SGE or any other LLM or Gemini or any of that, or Perplexity. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to see what answer it would give me. So I searched for my agency. And what it did was it told me what Fire&Spark does, but it gave me the wrong answer in an interesting way. It said that we do authority first, and I think it's on the next slide here. It said that we do authority first SEO, which is what we did 2 years ago. But it's not true. Like, it gave me the wrong answer. But the reason why it chose to say that we do authority first SEO is because we made a lot of noise about authority first SEO. It was mentioned in conjunction with Fire&Spark many, many times on the web. And when I did a bunch of conference speeches and all that sort of thing. So what it helped me understand by just typing in something, a brand I knew really well, my business, was that it's basically averaging everything that it's seeing online about my brand. It doesn't have a concept of recency or what's the actual right answer or something like that. So where that leads us when we're optimizing for generative engines, LLM search rather than old school Google search, is that brand mentions matter. Like if somebody's searching for the best pair of sneakers for hiking, you want to be the brand that is mentioned in that context the most often online because it's averaging everything together. And then also build your authority in your market. The key here is that every market is going to have a different way of building authority. So in my market, when I'm selling SEO services, I want to be known as an expert on SEO. So I speak at those conferences. That's how I build authority. And I want the large language models to see that. In another market, let's say I was selling socks online for e-commerce, then I would want to be in the best gift guides or holiday gift guides or something like that. So build the authority in the right way for your market. And the LMs are not doing a good job using those authority signals right now, but they will. Just like Google is using authority signals now, and they do in a way when Google's SG is combining the large language model output with its traditional search results. And then also we're learning to add Q&A. The large language models like that, they'll choose you because you have a concise answer that's very targeted to the very specific question that somebody asked. Large language models also like it when you quote experts in your space, even if they're not associated with your brand. And implementing structured data matters because that gives semantic context to the large language models around your content. So if I'm writing about the Colosseum, am I writing about the Colosseum in Italy, in Rome, or am I writing about the Colosseum in New Haven, Connecticut, where I grew up? But giving it that explicit context with structured data will help the large language models as they start to ingest this information to understand better when they should surface your brand and your content when people are searching in a generative search engine. And then also we've seen in studies that citing relevant statistics will make your brand, your content more visible in large language models for generative search. So to wrap things up here, SEO is changing. I'm focused on where my customers are searching, whether that's on Google or large language models or TikTok or on Amazon. There's just a number, or perplexity.ai. Like the surface area for search is growing in a lot of ways. I'm focused on where are they searching, and then also what searches should I be going after that are aligned with the search intents that I'm targeting so that we're more likely to get conversions. And then I should mention that we do this SGE risk and opportunity analysis for our clients. Usually charge like $3,000 for it, but I have a few that I could give away if anybody is interested in how SGE over the course of 2024 is going to affect your traffic. And now we can talk about Q&A. And just email me if you're interested in this, or to get the slides too. I'll send you the slides if you send me an email.
Thanks so much, Dale. So speaking of Q&A, we have a question about Q&A from
Yeah.
Jenny. So when you say to add Q&A, is that in a schema or is it primary content on the page?
Content on the page. So there's so many different ways you could do it. One way that we do it is like if we're working with a site that already has an FAQ, that FAQ is usually about customer service, like your shipping times, your return policy. But we can add a new FAQ separate from that FAQ that is about customer acquisition. So it's answering purchase intent questions. So it's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to just add Q&A to like the bottom of your pages where appropriate. But most of the pages on your site, whether they're blog articles or anything other kind of marketing pages, because Google, Google Classic and SGE are going to pick up on that. So you imagine you have a page that's already doing well in organic. What I would do is I would use a large language model like ChatGPT and ask it, what questions does this page answer? And then I would add those questions with a concise answer to the bottom of that page. And I'd do that for blog articles, for every type of page. But start with the ones that are already doing well in organic.
Excellent. And another question from Crystal. What about the theory that each site needs a percentage of informational versus transactional content? It seems you are recommending more transactional content.
Well, the way that I'm looking at it is like top of the funnel, middle, and bottom of the funnel. So top of the funnel is informational content, and that is most at risk for SGE and large and generative engine search. So and it's always been dangerous because that's always been the type of traffic that converts the least, because as SEOs we're going after it with blog articles that are not very well targeted. Instead, middle of the funnel might be like on an e-commerce site, we would build out buying guides, or we would build out collection pages that look like buying guides, is something like that. And that is traffic that, as long as you can make those pages destinations, not just, answering questions where Google can steal away, that we can start to preserve and protect our traffic. And then the bottom of the funnel would be like product pages, very specific service pages, and then also like Q&A that is quite specific. And those comparison pages too, where we can do a better job protecting transactional traffic or navigational traffic. I said Q&A, which sounds informational, but if you're going after like the right questions, then it can become navigational. Like they're navigating to your site to actually buy something.
Can I ask a follow-up question? This is
Yeah.
Crystal. And anyone else jump in. I don't want to usurp too much of your time. If do we know sort of maybe eventually if most people start their search on Perplexity or ChatGPT, or even if Google, but right now we're in a middle space. Do you have a sense for how much search is actually ending up or beginning, I guess, in generatively versus?
We don't know. That's one of the problems with these generative engines for search, is that we're not getting the analytics. We don't have a Search Console account that tells us what's going on with our site. So what we expect is to lose visibility in that way, unless those conversations are happening on our website. And then also when we do get traffic, it's more highly qualified traffic, because they've already had a conversation with a generative engine or an LLM before they've come to our website. So where that leaves us, so the concerns are, number one, like how's Google going to change? And that's more Google forcing people to behave differently or click on different things. But then what really matters is how is search behavior going to change, where people get used to having a conversation with an LLM before they click to a website, or they get used to expecting to get their answers directly from the engine, not by clicking. Or they are also like, queries get a lot longer. They might ask, what is the best restaurant in San Francisco during this specific festival? And by the way, I don't like going to restaurants at night. Just like really long stuff. So we should really be paying more attention to how how our customer search behavior is changing, because that's what's going to drive uptake with LLMs replacing search engines for certain searches.
Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more question. Feel free to unmute and ask a question if you have one. Yes, the video will be available. So I'll ask a question, Dale. Back to your example with your pet client, and you had ChatGPT generate the discussion between Cesar Millan and someone else. How did you apply that interview content to your client's content?
So there were many interesting points in there that it was just purely brainstorming. So
Okay.
what we were doing was we were writing a content brief that we would send to a writer. So it just allowed us to hit some points that we didn't know existed by reading through that fake interview.
Interesting. Okay. So that's an interesting case where it's not like you didn't ask ChatGPT to write the brief, but you did an analogous exercise that then helped inform the brief.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
One other thing I do when it comes to writing, so I have a custom GPT that I trained with some instructions that I enjoy using. And it works really well for me. What I do is if I want to write an article, like maybe it's around SEO, I will dictate my ideas on the topic or write them on a whiteboard. And then and if I write them on a whiteboard, then I'll dictate what I wrote on the whiteboard, or talk about it. And then I give a transcript of whatever I dictated to this GPT, and it identifies 5 angles for an article related to these ideas, and then 5 benefits and 5 pain points. And then so then I'll choose the combination of benefits, key takeaways, and all that. And then I give that to the because what I asked it to do in the instructions is to ask me which of them it should use and which of them it shouldn't. And then I press a button and it generates a content brief based on my ideas that I gave it in the transcript, and based on the key points that I selected, and the key pain points and the key benefits. But the key there is it's extracting those takeaways, benefits, takeaways, and pains, and I'm giving it feedback on them before it generates the content brief based on my ideas.
Got it. Well, Dale, thanks so much for joining us today. Great presentation. Everyone, feel free to get in touch with Dale at the email you see on the screen, or visit his agency, fireandspark.com. More meetups coming, so check our page for the subsequent talks. And thanks again for everyone for joining us. Cheers.